Hello, all. This is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3. And in this particular video, I want to talk about whether doing a PhD is fun or whether it's actually not. This is really just about the day-to-day of doing research. And this is based on my own kind of personal experiences and the sort of things that I feel. So if you don't know me, I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. So I created this sort of sharing economy proofreading platform, which is a reciprocity thing. And I'm doing these YouTube videos. There was just so many people that helped me out to get my own graduate degree that I wanted to help out other people and sort of pay the favor forward. So what is this thing? Why am I actually talking about whether a PhD is fun? I was just thinking about the sort of emotions that you feel when you're doing the work that you kind of love. I don't know if it's really, I don't know. It's really sort of a really strange thing. There's two things that sort of happen that I personally feel that happen, or sort of emotions that you happen. So there's the one moment where you're actually in the flow and doing the thing that you're doing, right? So doing that particular research task that you're doing. But it's really strange because you kind of lose yourself, right? And you really like what you're doing when you're doing that. But then at the same time, you really don't like what you're doing because you're always, to me, I'm always checking and seeing if I can go do something else, or, trying to escape. It feels like you're almost wanting to escape what you're trying to do. And so to get me to actually do the thing that I want to do, I am setting sort of timers when I'm working, or setting sort of limits in my mind of like, I'm going to work until this particular moment to get this thing done, and so I can actually get that done. But I love doing that sort of work, right? It's a really strange feeling where I'm feeling that I'm always trying to run away from that, but then I also really love that experience of writing and creating new ideas with it. And then the second moment that you have when you do a PhD, or you're kind of doing any of this kind of doctoral stuff and you become a professor and stuff, you're always thinking about research when you're away from it. It's really strange. And when you're doing it, you love it, sort of, not really. And then when you're not doing the research that you're doing, so I was hanging out with my kids today, I was always thinking about that I should be going to do it, or there was something that I should be doing along the way, or planning or thinking through stuff to get to the moment of getting something accomplished. I know that seems really strange, but you're always kind of the worst word, and I hate this word because it sounds terrible, but you're kind of yearning. I know it sounds perverted, but anyway, you're yearning to go back to doing the thing that you were doing, right? Going back to the research that you'd like to go do. And even though when you're doing it, you're not really truly liking it, you're kind of grumpy through it. So it's just a really strange thing that I think you experience. And I don't think that this is not necessarily uncommon when you're doing anything like this, right? I think this is kind of the mindset. If you're going in kind of a growth mindset, and you're building on something, and you're trying to build something. So people that are doing management, for example, and they're growing a company, or they're an entrepreneur and they're growing a company, for example, I think they experience these kind of events all the time. Or if you're a creative, right? So you're doing, and I definitely view being a PhD or doing research and, being in the lab or whatever it is, or becoming a professor, you're definitely a creative of some sort where you're actually designing something. So it could be like, you're a designer, an artist or something, you're thinking about it and you're working at it, but you're really struggling with it, but then you can't deal with it when you're actually doing the thing that you're doing. And then when you're not doing it, you're wanting to go back to doing that thing. I know it's a really strange, sort of complicated thing. So you kind of have this sort of feeling that, yeah, it's not necessarily, yeah, PhD is sort of fun and it's sort of interesting, but it's not really. And I wouldn't necessarily ever call it that. It's a lot of work, and it's interesting, but I wouldn't necessarily call it fun. But I think I would call it fun depending on what it is that I'm doing and thinking about. So you kind of you're stuck between these two moments. And I don't think I'm uncommon with thinking about this. I've heard a lot of people sort of experience their doing research in this way and sort of having these sort of weird emotions that you would do and think about. So it's not unusual. And I think it really comes from, and I think the funness of doing research and the funness of doing a PhD, it's, yeah, there's those moments where you're thinking about something, you get that kind of eureka moment. That doesn't necessarily happen that often. It does happen, but it doesn't happen that often. The biggest thing is that sort of a sense of accomplishment that you get, and you're working through something, and after months and months and months of revising a paper. I'm currently revising a paper that I started in July. Maybe it was in the middle of August when I actually started revising this paper. I've been working on it, and it's just getting to the point where I actually am completing this thing. And it's kind of interesting to see that I'm actually getting this thing done and wrapped up and putting together before I can work on something. I still have probably another 3 more weeks left, but you can get the sense of accomplishment that you actually did something, and that it's really beautiful in a lot of ways, right? So it's more of the beauty, I think, that the funness you get is more of the sense of accomplishment and the beauty that you get of actually accomplishing something than the actual act itself. Strange, I know, complicated, and probably sounds like a lot of hot air to a lot of you that are not doing this and are not sort of doing the creative thing. But to those of you who are doing it, you probably know this feeling and you probably recognize what I'm talking about. All right, so that's all I wanted to talk about with this video. Give me a thumbs up if you like it. And I know it's kind of more philosophizing, but yeah, this is what we go through. This is what we grapple with, right? So give me a thumbs up if you like it, and do subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're interested in more of this kind of stuff. All right. Take care. Have a wonderful day. Bye.